Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a vegan cherry clafoutis, a classic French dessert that I always used to make when I was vegetarian, but given that the main ingredient was egg, you may find it difficult to make it with an alternative substitute. So if you stick around in this video, I'll show you how I personally veganise this classic French dessert. So you will need then 300 grams of cherries, 600 grams of silken tofu specifically, a heaped tablespoon of cornstarch, 60 ml of plant milk, 150 grams of sugar, 250 grams of plain flour, a splash of vanilla, and then optional is icing sugar and creme fraiche or Alpro. Just decide if you want to, that option is optional. And then suggested utensils, you'll need a flan dish of some sort. Usually I use a circular one, but I thought I'd experiment with my new rectangular one with the collapsible bottom, a knife, stirring utensils and spatula, and then a cutting board and bowls, and then you'll need a food processor or a handheld blender if you don't have that. So to start then, we just need to halve the cherries. These were frozen so they were already de-pipped, but if you bought fresh cherries, just make sure that all the pips are out as well. But that's a pro tip, if you buy them frozen they're usually de-pipped, so I'm just halving them here. If they are from frozen, if you just let them sit for a while, because it can leave a bit of water residue, so you don't want it to bleed into the pudding too much. So I'll just set them aside into this bowl to help the water residue drain off somewhat. And then if you get your dish of your choice, you just want to either butter it down or you can use oil. I just had some margarine in the fridge, vegan margarine, so I'm just making sure that when I come to pop it out of the dish it slips out easily because it is a more fragile consistency. And then you want to arrange on the bottom side the cherries. I wanted to go for a less uniform look, so I'm randomly placing them around the bottom. By putting them on the bottom it helps them not to burn because it will be in the oven for a while. And then with your food processor, you're going to want to put your silken tofu. Bear in mind, firm tofu will not work, it will be too grainy and the outcome would be very bouncy and rubbery. Whereas silken tofu is almost jelly-like in texture, which is what you want for a really smooth, almost egg-like texture, which is what we're trying to replicate. So 600 grams of silken tofu. It may be harder to find, but you can find them in the world food aisle sections or in Asian shops specifically. So pop that into the food processor or a bowl if you don't have one, with the intention of whizzing it with a handheld blender. As you can see, it's like jelly-like in consistency. Then pop your plant milk in. I've gone for oat milk because that's what I always have at hand. And first you just whiz these two up so that it gets to a nice creamy consistency. I've sped this up, but I went for about a minute because you want to make sure that the grainy look disappears as much as possible. If it's looking a bit grainy again, the end texture would be not the desired effect, so you want it creamy like this. And then put your dry ingredients in, so the sugar, I just had granulated at hand but you can use whatever, plain flour, 250 ml or 1 cup, and then a splash of vanilla essence, and then the cornstarch, again just a heaped tablespoon. This will help with the eggy texture. And again whiz that up. Again it's been sped up, but I did that for about a minute to make sure it's as creamy as possible. Now this next step is just because I don't entirely trust my food processor. Sometimes it can leave little bumps and I really want it that really nice creamy texture because I've experimented with this a couple times and I've really found that the creamier the better. So I'm just decanting it into a bowl and I'm going in with a handheld blender as well. But again, you don't need to do this, it's just because I don't trust my cheap food processor. Once it's nice and creamy, bring your flan tin back, and pour the mixture over the cherries. I actually found that this mix I could have added a bit more because I'm used to making it in a spherical dish that's slightly smaller, so by all means increase the ingredients if you feel that you've got yourself a bigger dish. It just means that this one was slightly thinner than normal. So for future reference, I know to slightly increase it when I'm using this dish. And then just for the aesthetic of things, I decided to put some cherries on top as well. But you don't have to because they'll be on the bottom, obviously. But yeah, just for the appearance more so. And then you want to pop it into the oven, 180 degrees. For 30 to 35 minutes, depending on how deep you have made this, depending on your dish size, just keep an eye on it. It will be a lightly browned look when it's done, and then when it's done, just take it out and remove it from the dish, and then you can serve it up how you want. This flan dish really easy because it's got a collapsible bottom, so I just pressed it out like that. You can see how easy it is. Again, this was a bigger dish than I initially anticipated, so I got a thinner outcome than potentially you would normally if you were using a normal spherical one, so again just bear that in mind. And then I decided to put icing sugar on top. And you can also serve it up with some Alpro soya cream or something like that. It's just a serving suggestion. There we go, that's the final product. I've played around with it a lot, so hopefully it's what you remember the texture being like. Let me know if you've made it yourself. And until next time, I'll see you again. Okay, bye.